Hey, howdy, howdy, hey, howdy. How are you, people of Earth, people of Hidden Movie Club, people of this
Nanu Nanu.
wonderful universe? Um, what's up, everyone? How you doing, Derek?
Hello, I am doing fantastically, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. Welcome to Hidden Movie Club after the credits. Brad sadly cannot join us today. But what are we talking about, Derek?
We are talking about Moonlight. This movie was a recommendation from one of our fans in the chat here. Duppy, thank you so much for the recommendation. Um, Moonlight is a 2016 film directed by Barry Jenkins about a young African American man who is essentially trying to figure out his identity, his sexuality, who he is as a human being, all while experiencing the struggles of unprivileged life, adolescence, and what it means to become an adult. And overall, I would say I am very, very glad that I watched this film. However, I'm just going to jump right in and say, man, what a sad, tragic story for me. I thought watching it the
Yeah.
whole time, just tragedy all the way through.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't beat around the bush. Just right away,
Hmm.
you can get this feeling. It's got this tone to it that is apparent from frame number one that you're going to be in for a ride that's going to hit some emotional beats. And that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
beautiful film. I really, really liked the
mhm.
cinematography and a lot of the like setup of the way that the shots are filmed. Because what you're seeing on the screen is a lot of the times very beautiful and bright and colorful, all kind of juxtaposed on some very dark things that
Mhm.
are happening throughout the film and in Sharon's life. So just really, really like honestly, it gives me kind of conflicting feelings because I watched it twice. I watched it, all the way through, and then with the director's commentary.
Mm.
And even without the commentary, like it's just so in your face about a lot of that juxtaposition and
Yeah.
about, I would say like the uncertainty or the disorientation of everything that the director's commentary, although cool, I appreciated hearing Barry Jenkins kind of talk about some of the production stuff. What really wasn't surprising to me, what his intent was, what they were going for it. The film is based on a play by Terrell Alvin McCraney called "In the Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue." Um, and apparently the movie stays pretty close to the source material outside of the timeline of it. The play jumps back and forth between the different time periods that are in the
Oh,
film, kind of back and forth the whole time.
yeah.
Whereas in the film, obviously, it's kind of like in three acts with
Mhm.
it's the same person but playing three different characters essentially at the different time periods in their life. And so that the whole setup, the whole kind of pretense of the story, the themes are really obvious. I don't think I got anything like major out of that from the commentary, but
Yeah.
um, it did have some little gems in there that made me appreciate the film quite a bit. And actually, there was one that I'll talk about it later because it's not like a central plot point or anything, but they mentioned
Mhm.
it in the commentary, and I had the exact same reaction while I was watching it. So
Yeah, man, like, I actually just watched it this morning, just to have it fresh in my mind, but, yeah, like, I guess one of my criticisms is the fact that, you know, looking back on it from start to finish, there really isn't a whole lot that actually happens plot-wise,
hmm.
but that being said, just the blocking, the lingering shots, the music, um, it is I don't know, it's a very uh, they were able to strike this tone and put so much emotion just in capturing somebody on screen.
Hmm.
Really have to credit Barry Jenkins, and I'm not sure who the cinematographer is, but the ability to just convey to an audience and have me feel certain feelings and emotions toward these characters just with glances, with just staying in the moment with this character who doesn't really say much, and still be able to, have this emotional reaction from me as an audience member is, that's cinema, really.
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
to
Well, and
to
I,
get that.
yeah, I don't necessarily disagree that not a lot happens in the movie. I think that there is a story that's told, but kind of like you just said, I think the real like magic of this movie in terms of cinema is really the fact that with very little dialogue, like it tells so much, not just in what's happening, but how it's happening.
Yeah.
And I'll point to like just one example, or I'll give two examples of that directly from the movie. But like the fact that when chapter two starts and there's a couple scenes and Juan, played by Mahershala Ali, is not
Mhm.
in the film anymore. He's only in that first act of the movie. He's gone in the
Yeah.
second act. And they never tell you what happens. They never tell you why he's not in that second half of the movie.
Right.
But like just based on their expressions alone in various parts, especially Janelle Monáe, and then I don't want to mess this up because he was absolutely fantastic in this. Um, hold on. Where is he at? Is he at? Ashton Sanders? Is that who I'm thinking of? Yes, Ashton Sanders is the boy who played Chiron in the
Yeah.
second chapter. Their
Right.
expressions are really, really fantastic. And then the only mention of Juan really in the like context of what happened is when Chiron is getting bullied out in the street as he's just literally walking down the street and he starts getting bullied. And they mention Teresa as being Juan's bitch, and then
Yeah.
they say something about like, oh yeah, I remember so and so hitting her up after the funeral, basically saying that there was some kind of like sexual impropriety that happened or whatever, which is obviously
Right.
BS, but that's literally the only mention. So right there it's like, oh, Juan died, he's a drug dealer. That's obviously like, if you connect the dots between that, he probably died in
Yeah.
some drug related incident or some kind of thing. And they never say that. It's never stated in the movie. And then another scene that happens is actually again in the first act with Juan. There's a part where Chiron comes to Juan and Teresa's house, and Juan is telling him about how you never face or you never turn your back to the door. So when you're sitting at the
Right.
table, you always want to be sitting, forward basically. And the shot is really, really well done, in my opinion, because it says a lot about what's going on in terms of that Chiron is obviously the main character. So the shot starts centered directly on him. And then it kind of just slowly over the course of their
Yeah.
conversation tilts to the left so that Chiron and Juan are both in the frame. And I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that like emotional levity, the connection between them, like nothing really needed to happen there in order for you to see how like Chiron is basically like putting his trust in Juan. And I think that's the same conversation where he's like, wait, so you're a drug dealer, right? You sell
Yep.
drugs to my mom,
That is
right?
the
And then he just
conversation.
gets up and leaves. And then all you see is that empty seat next to Juan. And it's like, that right there tells you so much about the characters and the fact that, Chiron is like a very introverted kid to start off. He's always looking down. He never is looking people in the eye. He doesn't talk much or whatever. And yet at the end of that scene, Chiron is the one that looks him dead in the eyes and says, so you're a
Yeah.
drug dealer. You're dealing drugs to my mom. And then Juan's head drops and he's got nothing to
Yeah.
say at the end of that scene. And I think that's really like the end of act one. There might be something that happens after that,
I believe it is. Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
really like the transition point of that thing. And it's like, okay, well now it's really it's like a coming of age story, but in the worst possible way, because Chiron as a character, as a tragic, I mean, I guess he's the hero or the protagonist of the movie, but like
Mhm.
wow, just let down by every single person that he should have to turn to. And so like that middle act is really just him being like, I'm in the same spot I have been, and there's literally no one. I'm just trauma after trauma after trauma, and there's nobody for him to turn to. Yeah, Duppy, it
Yeah.
is fucking devastating. It's really, really sad. And again, as much as I like the film, I did not enjoy watching it. I don't think you're supposed to enjoy watching it. Um,
Right.
but it just, and yeah, Duppy said it earlier too. It hits a little too close to home for me. So
Yeah, man. And like, yeah, like because you've got that devastating moment that ends Act One, where Juan, basically says, "Yes, I am supplying drugs to your mom,"
yeah.
and you know, Sharon is just like, "All right, see you later," and then the end of Act Two, when he, slams that. Was it a chair? Was it a chair that he slams
Hmm.
it into that guy who keeps
Yeah.
bullying him?
Yeah.
And so it's just these pivotal, turning points in his life that end these acts. And God, and but at the same time, like it didn't surprise me at all that he ended up being a drug dealer himself,
Hmm.
because like, again, talking about juxtaposition, the fact that Juan, Mahershala Ali's character, is so nice to Chiron and basically a father figure to him,
Hmm.
and tells him, or yeah, like, gets him to learn how to swim in the ocean, and is there for him when he is, can't be at his own house because he doesn't want to be at his own house with his mom. And at the same time, you know, Juan's got this got this backstory where he's just, selling drugs to people on the street. So it's just, man, like, I don't know, like it's I personally, like, when you say hits close to home, like it's that is true for me as well. I've got some family members that have, kind of strayed from the straight and narrow, you could say, and kind of followed in the footsteps of those around them and the role models they've had that were not good role models. So yeah, just him ending up being selling drugs and stuff when he's in the third act, totally not surprising. And yeah, you're supposed to be feeling that way. I'm appreciative that I finally did see this Academy Award winning film.
Ah,
That
dang it. I messed that up. I was supposed to introduce La La Land when we started this. I meant to introduce La La Land, and I totally forgot about it. Dang it. Oh well. We gave it its due. It deserves it deserves its place.
Yeah, yeah.
No need to joke about it. Yeah, I think the reason I say that it hits so close to home for me is because I had the opposite experience. So like I was bullied a lot as a I'm a fucking nerd, so of course. But I was a little guy. I still am a little guy, but my whole life I've been a little guy. I got bullied a lot, so I relate to a lot of the situations that happen in
Yeah.
to Chiron, and even the in the second act when him and Kevin are at school after the beach scene. That didn't, that didn't really resonate with me. But what I was mentioning earlier is that I appreciated that although he is a gay character, learning about and struggling with his sexuality, it's really
Mhm.
played as you could almost swap out that character for a straight kid, and it would play the same way, which I like. It's not
Yeah,
heavy-handed, it's not like in your face about it, but yet it's
right.
still telling the story of somebody who's struggling with being gay and how they feel about it and everything. And then at the same time, I relate to the scene where Kevin is being incited by all the bullies to punch Chiron, because that honestly a very very similar situation like that happened to me in my freshman year of might have been eighth grade, but like eighth grade freshman year of high school, where a kid that I thought was my friend that was in like a larger group of friends of ours
Yeah.
essentially was, convinced to pick on me because I wouldn't do their homework, essentially. And
Mm.
my situation started off a little, or ended up a little bit differently, because I did end up fighting back. But I had people to turn to. I had my parents to turn to. I had people at school
Yeah.
to turn to, teachers, the bus drivers, whereas he had nobody. And so, like, that scene of him marching into the school right before he swings that chair at that kid, oh my God, I felt that so hard, because I had that moment where I marched into school the next day looking, I literally wanted to do something so terrible to those
Yeah.
people. And the only thing that separated me from Chiron was an adult grabbing me and be like, "Hey, are you okay after yesterday?" And immediately
Wow.
diffusing that situation. So I guess I'll go into it a little bit, but essentially what happened is I was on the bus doing homework, had a mechanical pencil because I was a nerd. So I'm like doing my homework, and this kid grabs my pencil and is like, "Hey, you're basically going to do my homework for me or whatever." And I was like, "No." And he's behind me. So he's essentially like in the seat behind me. I'm sitting in the seat in front here. He grabs my pen and he basically started choking me from behind. And while he's choking me, I'm trying to like grab the pen or like hit him in the face and stuff, like doing this whole thing. And he
Mhm.
takes the pen and essentially like tries to jam it down the back of my shirt. And so the metal tip of the mechanical pencil literally just scraped down a line of skin on my back.
Yeah.
And I managed to somehow grab the pencil from him and then stabbed him like this way backwards. I think I might have gotten him in the neck because it caused him to drop the chokehold or whatever and just kind of back up. And then
Yeah.
I turned around and just started like almost like a prison movie, just shibbing him in the
Oh,
chest.
shit.
And I have such a vivid memory because we had to wear or I think he was wearing like a blue uniform shirt. I don't know if it was because I don't remember having to wear uniforms at school
Yeah.
at the time, but I remember he had like a blue polo shirt on, and it just had all these red little dotted blood marks where the blood was starting to seep through.
Oh, shit.
And the bus driver immediately like pulls the bus over, grabs us, makes us sit on either side of of the aisle, essentially right in the front seats. And
Mhm.
it was a long bus ride. It took us an hour and a half. I was the last person off the bus because my stop was the furthest away from home, so it's like an
Oh,
hour and a
wow.
half bus ride. The school is really really far away.
Yeah.
um, and I remember the kid, Frank, got off the bus right before me, and then it was my stop. So literally, we're sitting in silence for the entirety of this super long ass bus ride. Uh, Frank gets off the bus, and the bus driver says, "Don't even look at each other," as Frank is getting off the bus.
Mhm.
We watch Frank cross the street, and then the bus slowly starts to pull away. And I remember, I'll never forget this. The bus driver kind of like just looked over his shoulder at me and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, uh, when, go home, just chill, just like cool off or whatever. Don't let it bother you or whatever. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna get in pretty big trouble, aren't I? Like I'm gonna get expelled. And I'd never even at that point, I was like good goody two shoes nerd student. So I'd
Yeah,
never
good.
gotten expelled or suspended or barely got detention. I got detention twice for really stupid things.
Mhm.
Um, but I was like, I'm gonna get in trouble. My parents are literally gonna kill me. I'm screwed. I'm so screwed. And he was like, I'm not telling anybody. That little shit deserved it. And I was like, "Oh my god!" So they never told my parents or whatever. But then the next day, I literally came to school, and like I said, I was having that Chiron moment where I was,
Yeah.
the most confident I've ever been, just like marching into the school. And then all it took was one of the people at school, one of the teachers being like, hey, the bus driver told me what happened. Are you okay?
Mhm.
And honestly, I don't know what would have happened if I didn't. I mean, I was ready to hurt this kid, and
Yeah.
I'm like even struggling to say it. It's like getting me choked up a little bit because I'm like,
Yeah.
I wasn't just looking to harm this person. I will say that I was ready to take my revenge out on them. I was ready
Mm.
to like say this is never happening to me again. And I guess this is the part that I will go back to is in the commentary. They make mention of the game that the kids are playing out in the field. They have like the
Oh, yeah.
newspaper paper
Right.
mache ball that they're throwing. Did you ever
Yep.
used to play that game?
No.
Okay, so we used to have that game in school, and we'd play it with like a football essentially or a soccer ball. It didn't really matter.
Mhm.
And they mention it in the commentary. But that game where I came from, where I grew up, I was born in Detroit, so I grew up in like the suburbs of Detroit. I mean, in Detroit proper up until I was like 6 or 7, and then in the suburbs. We call that game "Smear the Queer."
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
it wasn't ever like, it had nothing to do with being gay or queer or whatever. It was
right.
just pick on the little guy or pick on the person. I mean, literally, like people would play that game sometimes just to take their aggression out on somebody that they didn't like.
Right.
And sometimes it was kids like me who were the small nerdy kid. Other times it was friends of theirs that they had just gotten into an argument. Or I remember one time it was with soccer, and we had just had soccer tryouts, and one of the guys made the team, and the other one didn't. And the guy that didn't make the team was a pretty big, imposing kid, and I remember him just I mean, right in the face, just elbowing his quote unquote friend because he had essentially gotten his spot on the team over him.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it is. Some kids are horrible, Dima. They
Yeah.
are just absolute shits. And I think what, again, just to take it back to the film, the part that really gets me, that hits close to home, is that the difference between me and Chiron is that Chiron didn't have every single adult, every single person that Chiron had to turn to in the film, even Kevin, failed him. They
Mhm.
absolutely failed him. They didn't give him that place to go back to feel safe or to be able to, like, you had mentioned the scene, and sorry, I'm talking a lot about this, but I feel like I have a lot to say about this movie because of where it hits for me. That
Preach.
scene, yeah, yeah. That scene where Juan is teaching him to swim.
Mhm.
I looked at that scene as, like, to me the ocean is like a theme in the movie. The whole, him coming back to the ocean each time, him seeing the ocean. To me, the ocean really represents what I feel like is the possibility of who you are as a person. And for the
Mhm.
first time, that scene that you mentioned, I really, really love the way that they shot that in the water, up close with
Yeah.
them. Really, really beautifully done, because it's like the one time maybe in the movie where you see an adult really showing Chiron what it's supposed to be when you're growing up and figuring yourself out and discovering yourself. When you're
Yeah.
discovering yourself, doing it on your own is terrifying. It's like being out in the ocean and not knowing how to swim. And
Mhm.
Juan was like the first person that was like, hey, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to figure out who you are as a person. Let me show you how to figure out who you are as a sexual being, as a lover, as a fighter, as just the whole thing. Yeah, yeah, Duppy. Like how to keep your head above water in this infinitely vast um, world, in this ocean of who your
Mhm.
potential is, who you could potentially be as a person. And I guess this wasn't intentional, but it plays so beautifully in the movie that the first time Chiron actually starts swimming on his own, you can see a storm in the background. The water's starting to get really choppy, and they're really
Yeah.
doing this thing. And I mean, that scene is just, to me, the apex of the movie. It summarizes everything that the movie is about, because at the end of that scene, Juan basically sends Chiron out into the storm, And I
Mhm.
think the next scene is pretty much that one we were talking about at the table where he's like, "You sell drugs, my mom is a drug addict." Like, you know, I mean, that really is like, that's the movie in a nutshell for me. He's got
Mhm.
this singular person that is like starting to show him how to figure himself out. And then instead of taking it to the end, he's betrayed by his mother. He's betrayed by the person selling drugs to his mother, who is the one that just gave him this taste. He's, betrayed by literally, I mean, I guess Janelle Monáe's character maybe is the one. Teresa's like the one character that
Yeah,
doesn't betray him necessarily, but
right.
also realizes that she's not going to be able to fix him or like help him figure this life out. So the only thing she can do is be kind to him and hope that that's enough.
Mhm.
And man, it's just dark. It's real dark because then from there, like I feel like I had the people in my life that taught me how to swim, literally and figuratively. I learned how to swim from a very, very young age and then had people my whole life that, gave me opportunities to swim and opened the world up for me so that I could figure out who I am as a person, what is important to me, what things what's the saying? You are what you repeat. I think it's a play on you are what you eat. And I feel like
Mm,
we've said that, or I've said it before
yeah.
on this show, but you are what you repeat. And really, unless you have somebody to show you what it's like to repeat those things, I think you end up in Chiron's spot. I
Yeah.
think you have this cycle of Little being influenced to become Chiron, Chiron solidifying that the world is not kind and he is on his own. And the only way to get that resolution for yourself is to take it into your own hands. And then unfortunately, that kind of mentality leads you to becoming black, which then leads to the cycle repeating itself because as a drug dealer, I'm sure Black Chiron, when he's black, um, I'm pretty sure that repeats. There's that little scene of him with one of his enforcers counting the money and stuff, and him being like, "Hey, you're
Yeah.
short," and all that was. I mean, I honestly don't know if he was short or not because the way that that scene plays out is kind of like, this is meant to be a life lesson for you, or is
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
Is it or is it not?
It's like
Like, was he actually short?
if you can't notice when somebody's fucking with you, then, you're not
Yeah.
made for this. And it's like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that mentality carries on further because now that enforcer is going to go out into the community and feed that whole, like it's like a really tragic self-referential cycle that starts, grows, swells, and then feeds right back into itself.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it's tragic. The whole thing is tragic. And I try to compare it to movies like Train Spotting or Straight Outta
Mhm.
Compton or some of these other ones that are like, they're very much about the coming of age in this environment that is just feeding itself. That's like tragic. In
Yeah.
Train Spotting, they take it to an extreme where, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, just mute me real quick. But in Train Spotting, the baby dies. Like there is no redemption arc for that. It's just like, hey, this
Mhm.
shit happens in that situation. And I'm kind of glad that this film, Moonlight, meaning this film, Moonlight, stayed on the one character. Didn't
Yeah.
try to go into some of these other characters. Like you're introduced to these other characters because it's tracked and focused on Chiron himself. But it still plays with that idea of like, this is just a cycle. This is a cycle and it's going to continue and he's going to continue it. And it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah. 'Cause, that's, why a lot of people end up going to therapy because they want to break the cycle
Mm-hmm.
with however that may come
Mm-hmm.
to pass. Because yeah, there's definitely some things even from my childhood and, the fact that I do um, have had to deal with some, family members with substance abuse and things like that, and how I've seen it kinda trickle down to their
Mm-hmm.
children, etcetera. Um, So yeah, and even myself, there are a few things I've been holding on to from childhood that I'm trying to still break that cycle so that I don't pass that on to my own daughters. So yeah, man, it's I do I really liked, like you were saying, I just want to go back to the scene where where Juan teaches Chiron or Little how to swim, because I really love how that scene was shot, how it's as if the ocean was half the shot
Hmm.
and Juan and Chiron were the other half.
And
So
it
like,
comes up often into the frame and
yeah, and
overwhelms
it's
them.
right, and I thought that was just brilliant, just how they frame that, because it could have been anything. It could have been like a shot where it's pretty high, and you just kind of are looking down on them. But no, they wanted to be in it. They wanted to just have it, the turmoil of the ocean be a part of the shot. And another shot that I was really
Hang on,
fascinated by.
can I interrupt you for just for a second because
Yeah.
the commentary gives some insight on that. They actually did
Oh.
not plan to film that shot that way. So that's
Oh.
what I was saying, like it's kind of like a blessing in disguise that it ended up being like that, because it's probably one of my favorite shots in the whole movie. They
Yeah.
had actually planned to have two scenes from the play, one where Juan teaches him to swim and then one where he teaches him how to ride a bike. But
Mm.
because of time and kind of budget constraints, they only were able to film that one scene, and so they wanted to kind of feed both of the points of the bike riding, and the thing is, him kind of showing him how to be a man on his own type of
Hmm.
deal. And the storm obviously was coming, so they were time constrained. They realized that the only
Yeah.
time they had to film that scene was when the storm was coming, and so they decided kind of last minute, let's film it in the water, be up close and personal with them. I don't know, I don't think he mentioned, at least I didn't hear how they had planned to film that initially, but he says outright that they did not plan to be in the water when they were filming that shot. And
Huh.
because it was like their only, mentor mentee shot in the film, that they were like, we need to be in depth, in very personal, very intimate.
Yeah.
um and that's how that shot ended up. So very interesting to hear you say that, because it wasn't planned, at least initially, to be that way. Continue.
Yeah. And maybe we can I mean, I know we talk about AI all the time on this show, and people have even commented like, "Oh, here we go again."
Here's the AI.
But just maybe put a pin in it. I want to maybe briefly talk about AI later on. But anyway, another shot that I was just totally fascinated by, because I had never seen anything quite like it, and it was right before his bully uh, instigates the whole fight that's about to
Hmm.
happen, and
The
how he's
spin
walking
around.
around and making a circle so that everybody's, because something's about to go down, and
Hmm.
everybody at the school as well is like, oh shit, what's going on, what's about to happen, because then they're making way, they're kind of, but at the same time kind of crowding around like, I got to see this, because it's high schoolers, they got to see this drama unfolding. And
Shark in the
yeah,
water.
yeah, man, it was so cool. Like, cause it's just trained on him for the
Hmm.
longest time. That shot's probably like, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds,
Hmm.
which, in cinema time is actually a really long time.
Hmm.
But I just love how it just didn't waver. It just followed him, followed him, followed him, and you could see this thing just kind of unfolding in like the outskirts of the shot itself. And like, yeah, it was awesome. I loved that shot.
Yeah, I also love that shot. And for me, it's really two reasons. Like Duppy was saying, that very
Yeah.
much felt like a shark in the water swimming around for prey, because we know kind of, it's foreshadowed, or like there's a little bit of a tell that obviously it's going to be Chiron that is the one that gets attacked.
Mhm.
But the scene prior to that, the characters, he goes to Kevin, he's like, I'll tell you who's the person I want you to, to go after.
Right.
Like we don't know. So that scene is him looking for his prey in that moment. And the other reason that I love that shot is because it mirrors the opening shot of the movie. The opening
Oh,
of the movie
yeah.
follows Mahershala Ali and then does a spin around his enforcer drug
Mhm.
dealer on the corner and goes and uh it kind of serves two purposes in my mind. One, and I know for at least the opening shot, this was the intention, is that Barry Jenkins talks about how him and the cinematographer wanted to start the film and introduce these characters in a very fluid manner to echo the theme of water and the ocean and kind of the
Yeah.
turbulence of what's going on in the scene. So the opening scene is very fluid and smooth, and you see this, like, again, circling around. It's like water going down a drain. It's very I don't know, just like slow and kind of non-tumultuous. And then
Yeah.
this scene, the one that you're talking about, is very tumultuous and it's locked on, but the
Yeah.
camera is like there's people rushing past, and it's very disorienting and confusing. And again, that concept of the water and the ocean as a metaphor for figuring out who you are amongst all this possibility. I love that the first shot is orienting to the character and, where Chiron lives, where he's growing up, where this place is, where this story is taking place. And then this shot is so disorienting. And it's like,
Yeah.
guess what? He's about to, the water's churning. There's chum in the water. He's about to
Mhm.
figure out who he is, or who, he ends up as a person. And again, it's so tragic and just so like sad. And then I wanted to ask you about this specifically because we talk a lot about music and how it kind of shapes these movies and the themes and the kind of the tones and everything in them. And
Mhm.
I'm curious how you feel, because this was I think the first scene that I noticed the classical music really as like a substitute for different music. They play the classical music pretty much, the whole time
Mhm.
during these like really intense scenes. And I'm curious how you feel about that, because to me, classical music for the most part, especially in this film, is like steady and beautiful and not necessarily, there's not like a bunch of violins and stabbing and
Yeah.
horns trying to like play up the disorientation. It's like visually it's very disorienting, but you know audio wise
Sonically?
or orally, sonically,
Mhm.
it's very like subdued and beautiful. And I don't know, there's again that juxtaposition
Yeah.
is like so in your face specifically for that scene, that I was just like, it just stood out to me. It like hit me right over the head with that. I knew what was coming, I knew what was going to happen, and it was almost like it made it harder for me to watch, knowing that like this beautiful song is playing over something that is going
Yeah.
to be a fucking nightmare and a tragedy.
Yeah. I honestly love that's it. I guess you could call it a trope, but it's one of my favorite tropes of when the music completely juxtaposes what is happening on screen.
Hmm.
I don't know. There's just something about it where it just it speaks to my soul, and I just can't help but love it. Because I for whatever reason, another example comes to mind. Oh gosh, it's a I think it's like a Nicolas Cage action movie, and gosh, which one was it?
Is it
But anyway,
Next? Are you talking about Next?
mm, I don't think so. I don't think it was Face Off, but it was kind of in that same era. But there's this shot. There's this moment where an action scene you can tell it's about to happen, but then they put headphones on the little daughter, and then all you can hear is
Oh
the
yeah,
music
that is
that the
Face Off.
dog.
That is
Yeah,
Face Off.
where it's all you can. That's all you hear is just
Hmm.
the like nice
Hmm.
little music
Well,
that the daughter's listening to while
so
this
that's
pandemonium is going on.
That's interesting to me because I think in the example you're talking about, there is no diegetic audio. You just hear the music as all this
Correct.
craziness is happening. But in this scene in Moonlight, you still do hear them egging him on right up until the
Yeah.
end. It slowly fades out, and that happens a few times in the movie because the scene. I think right after that, where the principal is talking to him and he's all beat up and bloodied and all that
Mhm.
stuff, and she's like, you're not a man. If you were a man, there'd be four other kids sitting here in
Yeah.
the office. And that happens, but without music. Her voice just starts to fade out as he
Yeah.
starts to realize, like, so yeah, that's really interesting to me because that it is kind of a trope, but there's like even variations on that trope,
Mhm.
and they all kind of like twist it and turn it a little differently. So there's a different meaning to each one of
Mhm.
those different variations. So
I
yeah,
I
that's interesting.
since you mentioned that, I really love how they, portrayed that scene as well with the principal. Um, 'Cause if I couldn't exactly watch this on the television with my girls here this morning. I mean, they're not here at the moment. They went to their grandma and grandpa's house, but, since I have this particular movie on Vudu, I just watched it on my laptop here with my headphones. Um, so I could, hear things a little bit more precisely because I'm listening to it on headphones, and that scene in particular was another standout. Just how just a brilliant use of fading into silence. Just because, yeah, like as soon as he hears that from the principal, like, essentially you're not man enough, or else, you'd have four other guys right next to you in this room with you. And as soon as he hears that, he just checks out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever you're about to say, whatever, like, advice or whatever you're about to say to me at this point, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
just you
Charlie
can just
Brown.
stop
Wah, wah, wah,
talking
wah,
now.
wah, wah,
Yeah,
wah, 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 wah.
exactly. And it was just, yeah, the effect of it was the sound design was brilliant in that scene.
Yeah.
Man.
It's weird because I like in the back of my head right now, I'm constantly trying to think about because normally when we start these off, we give our ratings. You give your rating, I give my rating out of 10 or whatever. And we haven't done that yet on this episode. And I'm really even now I'm thinking in the back of my head, like what rating would I give this movie? Because it's beautifully done, it's incredibly well done, it's incredibly well thoughtful, and yet the entire time I don't like the way that it made me feel. And I know that's the point, but it makes it
Yeah.
so hard for me to give like an objective, oh, I'm going to give this movie a 7.1 out of 10 because although it's great technically and thematically and it drives, a really important point home, I didn't enjoy watching it, and I don't want to like
Yeah.
tell people, yeah, like it's a 10 out of 10, go watch it, and then hate
Mhm.
yourself for, about 2 days afterwards or whatever.
Yeah.
Um it's just really I don't know, it's really really difficult for me to kind of put into a summary how this movie makes me feel. um and a lot of I mean that everything that we've talked about so far, the music, the cinematography, the themes that are in it are all just like it's such a beautiful tragic combination, and I just
Mhm.
I
I
don't.
mean, I guess if I were talking about this to somebody else, I don't know, well, I would recommend it, but with a big asterisk, and just be
Yeah.
like me personally, I thought it was a gorgeously shot, beautiful, tragic film. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10, but once is enough. And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
like, I don't know if I ever wanna see it again, but I am overjoyed that I did sit down to at least see it once.
Do you feel like it deserved the Academy Award over something like La La Land? I know that's a big joke that they messed up the
Right.
presentation of that, but I actually feel like I hadn't seen it at the time. I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing it is for Hidden Movie Club, so
Yeah.
I hadn't watched it when they did that announcement. So I was just like, oh, okay, whatever, like no big deal. But now I feel like that did such a disservice to the movie And I know it wasn't intentional. It was totally like a
Yeah.
mistake on the part of, whoever processes the envelopes or all
Yeah.
that nonsense. But like to have that moment like taken away a little bit from the movie,
Yeah.
ugh, like I do think it deserved the Oscar. I don't remember what other films were up for contention or whatever.
Mhm.
But like you said, as in terms of cinema and how this movie is kind of set up, it is cinema. It makes you feel something that potentially you would not. Yes, Duppy. I mean, you nailed
That
it. Requiem for
yes.
a Dream is exactly that same type of movie.
Yep.
I
I've
thought it was
seen it
gorgeous. I
once,
thought it was beautiful.
never again.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna say a hot take here, Elin. Uh, what if we watch Requiem for a Dream for double take? Because I
Ugh.
saw that movie once. I saw that movie
Yep.
exactly once, and I did not want to see it again. But now I wonder if I would see that movie in a different light
Yeah, because it
now after.
was I think it was just my best friends and I, and it was, I think, junior or senior year of high school when we sat down and watched it together.
Mhm.
So, it's been a long time. Um, but yeah, I honestly wonder, like, seeing that movie through my,
Different lens.
now 44-year-old adult eyes.
Yeah. Well, I
Mm,
feel like too. I'm looking at movies now because of this show or because of Hidden Movie Club more critically. I'm looking for things like themes and what is the
yeah.
underlying message. Why did they make a movie? Like what was the purpose of it? Before, I feel like I watched movies mostly to be entertained,
Yeah.
um, and now I'm looking at them more so of why what's the purpose of this, what are they trying to say through
Mhm,
this art? If art's not saying a message, if art's not saying something, and
mhm.
sometimes the message that is sending is that it's not sending a message, it's very contradictory in that regard.
Yeah.
But I think if I watch something like Train Spotting or Requiem for a Dream, I would probably look at it a little bit differently because I mean, just thinking about Requiem for a Dream in terms of Moonlight, the first thing that pops into my head is that quote from Fight Club, which is like, I wanted to ruin something beautiful
Yeah.
or destroy. I wanted to destroy something beautiful.
Yeah.
And that is kind of like what I feel like about Moonlight and about Requiem for a Dream. Very beautiful, very thoughtful and well done. But yeah,
Mhm.
just ugh, ugh.
Yeah, because, my buddies and I, since we have a lot of the same tastes and whatever, like, same sense of humor and everything too. It was the first time that we had all sat down and watched this is referring to Requiem for a Dream. Um, the very first time we ever sat down, finished a movie, and were literally paralyzed and couldn't move until the credits were completely done. Like, we sat there in silence too.
uh,
We didn't say a word until the credits were done. We're like, "Well,
yeah.
we just watched that." And yeah, crazy, crazy time.
Yeah, even I was thinking about too, because there's a couple shots. The one that sticks out is the one in Moonlight where, because it's a beautiful shot of Chiron. We had mentioned it when he's walking down the street and the bullies approach him and are talking about Teresa and all that stuff, and he's wearing like this really, really colorful, bright. It's like a yellow and blue and green, I think, like button down shirt, and it's open and he's wearing
Yeah.
a white t-shirt underneath it or whatever. And I noticed kind of at that moment that even the three stories are from a visual perspective, like the language that they use in the color is very
Yeah,
different.
right.
The first story where it's little is kind of like colorful, but it has a lot of those like oceany blue colors that are
Yes.
really brought to the forefront. And then the middle
Mhm.
story is that bright green of all the trees and the grass and all that stuff. And then the ending is like this dark nighttime diner scene. And again, I mean, just the up and down of the themes in the movie is really reinforced by that color.
Mhm.
I think he mentioned that they actually set up separate LUTs for um each of those stories, so
Yeah.
that when they filmed it, they're all color graded in that very specific way, for each of the three. They didn't really talk about how they used those necessarily, but he did mention that they had different LUTs set up with the cinematographer.
Yeah.
um and all of that just kind of speaks to, that theme of like, this is a three distinct people that are all the same character, or I should say all three characters that are all the same person.
Yeah.
And it's really just really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably take back that I won't ever see this ever again. I mean, maybe, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years. but
Yeah.
but yeah, it'll be a while before I watch this again.
Yeah, I actually debated, because Kelly didn't get to watch it with me when I watched it the first time, and then obviously she's not going to want to watch it with just the commentary until she's seen the movie. But I debated whether or not I would recommend this movie to her to like watch with her. And I told her, I was like, kind of what we're saying, that it's a beautiful movie. I would recommend watching it with the caveat that it's not going to make you feel good. It's not,
Mhm.
uplifting story. It's very much a tragedy. It ends on, I don't know. It ends on what I think is a kind of a sad melancholia that just you're not ever going to get away from. And
It
again, I
just
know
kind of
that's,
floats in the air. Yeah.
yeah.
Like the
Well,
the
it's the water.
melancholy.
It's the theme of the water again. It's
Yeah.
even when you think you figured out who you are as a person, like the water's always there, and sometimes the water gets you, and you feel like you're drowning, and other times you feel totally safe and the water's calm and peaceful, and life feels like it's going the way that you want it. And it's Duppy's asking us to discuss the last scene at the diner when Chiron says, "Oh,
No,
Kevin."
no, that's
Well,
that's
Kevin is the only
uh
person he's ever touched.
that's at Kevin's house or apartment or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is at his. It's after the diner. He makes him dinner,
Yeah,
and then
when
they
he
go back.
when he
Yep,
takes him home.
yep. Well, I think that's a great question, because it kind of leads me into this thing that, Kevin asks him a question of like, he's something along the lines of like, you weren't what I expected. What, you're like
Yeah,
hard now or whatever.
right.
And that water allegory really, to me, speaks to that kind of sort of thing, because it's like, I think at that time Chiron thought that he figured out who he was. He's this big hard ass who nobody's ever going to bully him again, and life's never going to,
Yeah.
take him down. He's this big bad meanie. And then Kevin just cuts right through that, and it's like,
Mhm.
man, you're the kid at the park that, I fought, or that I wrestled with, um that, like, you're that same kid. This facade that you're putting on or whatever is, if that's really who you are, fine, but that's not who I know, and I think that that's who I know. um
Yeah.
yes, yes. Yes, and again, that's exactly why, Duppy. I think that message that I'm saying, the theme of like the water and the people that fail him constantly. I think that is a direct that's a direct relationship. I think that people who don't have intimacy in their life don't have it because they've never felt comfortable with themselves, and they don't feel comfortable being around other people because nobody has provided them that safe space like Juan did in the water. Nobody
Mhm.
nobody showed them what it's like to navigate this stuff. Nobody shows them what it's like to figure out who you are as a person on your own. Not the
Yeah.
person that you need to be in order for the world to not just stomp all over you, but really ultimately, if you were as a child truly loved and allowed to express who you are and what you feel like and what is important to you as a person, you will develop that intimacy, because I think that's where you develop that, is through meeting other people, through seeing the world through other people's eyes, through being intimate with those, with other people. I know it's a joke for people, but like, everybody talks about like, oh, in college I experimented a little bit or whatever. It's
Hmm.
like, yeah, you should have,
Yeah,
like,
just
that
to
that
see
that's
what's out
that
there. Yeah,
yeah, that's kind of what college should be like. And I don't mean just sexually or whatever. I mean in
sure.
every way, like, where do you get your morals from? Where do you get your views on religion and on sexuality and on education and on
Yeah.
politics and government and how we should treat other people? Like, it's all part of that soup that is the ocean. And if you
Mhm.
never have somebody to teach you how to swim in that ocean, you won't have intimacy, because you will look at every single person and every single situation as a situation that you need to protect yourself from. And that, I think, is who Black essentially is Black is the byproduct of Little and Chiron turning into this person that needs to be this big bad brute living in this world of drug
Yeah.
dealers and hard asses, because of the fact that he never figured out who he was on his own.
Because that really is the tragic element, is that he even says it to Kevin. He's like, I moved to Atlanta and I basically built myself from the ground up. And
Hmm.
it is who you see in
After
front of
being
you
in
now.
jail,
Yeah,
because some guy in
right.
the joint was like, "Hey, I can hook you up." It's terrible. It's just absolutely tragic. I actually,
Yeah.
I'm looking at my notes, and I have a couple things that kind of relate to this. But
Mhm.
in the scene where Kevin and Chiron are on the beach, and he's first really kind of exploring what it means to be intimate with somebody.
Yeah.
The part that stood out to me during that scene was that he talks about, he's smoking weed, and he's like, "Oh, you've probably never done this or whatever. Like, this is the first time," or something about the comment that like he's never done weed, and then Chiron grabs the joint and like so effortlessly just
Yeah.
drops that thing and then gives it back to him. And I grew up in in an extended family household where weed was all over the place. I was never curious about it. I never, it was never kind of framed to me as like oh, it's a gateway drug, you need to stay away, until I
Uh-huh.
actually got in school, and the Dare program
Right.
was this absolute abysmal failure of like, don't ever touch drugs, stay away from them, don't learn anything about
Yeah.
them.
Right.
My household was the opposite. My parents were always like, if you're going to do drugs, know what they are, know, like educate yourself first. And then if you still want to do them, like, that's a decision you got to make on your own. And what was interesting to me about this scene on the beach is that he seemed so natural and effortless. And then he says to Kevin, like, when your mom's a druggie, shit's lying around the house,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that to me was like, oh damn, because
Because even
in
Kevin's
the
face after he said that was like, "Oh shit."
yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think again it kind of ties into all these themes, but Barry Jenkins on the commentary talks about how the actor for Kevin at that age, which I'm gonna look
Mhm.
him up because they just do such a good job with this stuff. Jarrell Jerome,
Yeah.
when they were casting him, they initially were having trouble casting that role because they wanted somebody that felt, again, kind of like a Juan, where they could be very confident and kind of be the person that helps direct that scene from the
Yeah.
perspective of Chiron. And what's interesting to me about that is that that's also the first time that Chiron not only kisses a man, but ever kisses anybody. Like
Yeah.
like is revealed at the end, in that third scene. And Barry Jenkins talks about how when he was talking with Jarrell Jerome, Jarrell was asking him, he's like, "Hey, just for my character's sake, like, is this the first time that Kevin has ever kissed a man?" And Barry Jenkins was like, "No, no, it's not the first time that Kevin has ever kissed a man." And he's like, "Okay, but is it the first time that Chiron has ever kissed a man?" And Barry Jenkins is like, it's the first time he's ever kissed anybody. And um, I feel like apparently there was no conversation after that. That was
Mm.
like where they ended that conversation.
Yeah.
And Jarrell afterwards, when he was talking to Barry Jenkins about like how, did I do a good job or whatever? Did I play it the way that you wanted to? He was like, the one thing that he took away that I wanted him to without saying anything is um, that was a responsibility. He didn't know it at the time, but the responsibility of making that first moment, that first intimate moment, something that was special as an actor is incredible. So kudos to
Mhm.
him for nailing both the kiss and then kind of that hand job afterwards or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they nailed the vibe of what that's like to like discover that for the first time. And then
Right.
I absolutely love the way that the actor for Kevin plays it when Chiron says, "I'm sorry." And he says, "For what?" Like almost like that's what's supposed to happen, man.
Yeah.
like
Yeah, exactly. Like
like
that's
that's how this works,
yeah,
because
that's
Chiron doesn't know how this works. He's never
right.
had that. He will never have that again until the end of the film. And again, it's just tragic. It's really, really tragic. And the last thing I wanted to say
Yeah.
is because all these scenes happen near the ocean, Barry Jenkins said something in the commentary that really sticks with me because, again, growing up in Detroit, my family didn't have a ton of money. So, like, as kids and even as teenagers, you're always trying to find stuff that you can do that's fun, that's free, that doesn't cost anything.
Mhm.
And Barry Jenkins said in the commentary, in Miami, the hood is 20 minutes from the ocean and the ocean is free. And I know he meant that as like the reason that he has Chiron going to that is because the subway is free, the metro is free. You can get on the subway
Yeah.
and it's just like a respite from the rest of the world because it just goes in a loop or whatever. But I
Mhm.
think he meant it, at least in terms of the commentary, that it doesn't cost money. You can go see the
Yeah.
ocean and it doesn't cost money. But I love that he said that because the hood is viewed a lot of the times in Miami, Detroit, everywhere as this this cage that little
Yeah.
kids get put into, that they're trapped in, but the ocean is free. The ocean is open, it's wide. You can be anybody, you can do anything, you can be anywhere.
Mhm.
And I just thought that was a really beautiful thing to say. And I don't even know if he realized that he said it in that way that has a double meaning. But
Mhm.
I hope he did. He probably did. He's a smart guy, obviously, for if he made this film. But
Yeah.
I just love that because that to me kind of like summarizes the movie for me in that way. It's the hood is 20 minutes from the ocean, and the ocean is free.
Mhm.
It's like, ugh.
And it really hit me when he said that he never touched anybody
Mm-hmm.
since they
Mm-hmm.
had that intimate moment on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
So like, fuck, man, what kind of life is that? To
Yeah.
to have to have no intimate connection with anybody by choice, and just be this hard ass, you know, or at
Well,
least
I
this
wonder if that's by
facade.
choice.
I
I
mean,
wonder if that's by
mm,
choice because I mean look at how he must view intimacy. His mother, his own mother,
yeah,
rarely showed him any affection, and the few scenes that we see where she is showing him affection and telling him she loves him, she either wants something from him, money or something else, or
yeah,
she's high off her, she's coming down off of her high and is basically babbling and doesn't really know what she's saying. And the one time she tells him that she loves him and that she means it is ironically enough when you had said something before about being able to talk about your trauma with people like a therapist or something like that, and
yeah,
she says something along those lines. She's like, have you talked to anybody about this? Like, I don't necessarily mean a therapist, but maybe even just your mama, and it's like that was heartbreaking to me because how can anybody have a healthy level of intimacy to the
yeah,
point where they would even be comfortable kissing somebody or having that touch? Like literally every single person in Chiron's life is somebody who, when they touch him, is like an attack. It's like an
Yeah.
affront on him, or is unexpected touch. Because Juan and Teresa touch him a couple times, not intentionally as like a thing, but like Juan even like kind of like puts his arm on him, and he like he shirks away,
Mhm.
and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's sad. It's sad. And yeah, technically I guess it is by choice, but I don't think it is in the most like core sense of that word. Like how could anybody that's been raised like that, that's been in an environment like that, where every single touch he's experienced is something that has been used to hurt him? Like, I don't,
Yeah.
that's not a choice. I mean, even Kevin, the one person that has kissed him and shown him any kind of intimate affection, the very next scene beats the shit out of him.
Mhm.
The very next scene beats the shit out of, that breakdown in the principal's office is like, that's a person that thought maybe this guy could be the one example, and then just breaks down because of it, because it's not the one person he thought he could maybe be intimate with betrayed him immediately.
Yeah, but at the same time, you could see Kevin's face while he's hitting him, just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. Stay down. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just doing this to put a front and be cool to these other guys who are basically making me hurt you.
Yeah. Which is
So
like
yeah,
that
just
whole,
that.
it's a whole nother theme of toxic masculinity and like what
Yeah.
it means to be pressured into being a quote unquote man, when
Mhm.
all, especially when that means hurting somebody that's lesser than you, or
Yeah.
weaker than you, or lower than you, or whatever you want to use to describe that. But
Yeah.
just, yeah,
It's hard.
it is. It is. One other thing that I wanted to mention, because we talked about the music, there are several songs, or there's music throughout the movie that I thought was really interesting, because I noticed something, but I didn't know what it was. And there's two things. One, a lot of the classical stuff, even the Mozart, there's a song, a Mozart song that is kind of like worked into the rest of the score, and that was
Mhm.
re-recorded. I guess the song was in the public domain, so the composer actually had the orchestra that did the score just re-record that Mozart piece or whatever. But the other part is, as the film develops, there are sounds, and the part again that I noticed it at was when Chiron is walking into the school, that confident, I'm gonna beat the shit out of this guy moment. There are claps in the song
Yeah.
that play, and apparently all of those sound effects that they use in that, not just the claps, but there's some other there's like some words, or like it's very ethereal and ephemeral, it feels kind of very loose or whatever. Those are all sampled from scenes that Kevin and Chiron are in. So the hand clap is actually that first time
Oh.
when they shake hands and do like the fist bump or whatever. That's the
Oh.
clap that they use over and over and over again. And there's
Huh.
quotes that Kevin says and quotes that Chiron says that they integrated into that music. And I didn't catch that. I heard the claps, but I
Sure.
didn't catch that it was the exact same sound, and they never changed it. They didn't use multiple takes of it. They didn't use other scenes. It's the one scene, and it's just kind of repeated throughout the movie as it goes
Yeah.
on and on and on. And I
Huh.
thought that was cool because, again, thematically, Kevin is like the one person that maybe could have shown, he could have been the one for Chiron throughout the rest of his life, and it ends up being, unfortunately, a negative influence on him.
Mhm.
So just, again, heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking, just a tragedy through and through.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Um, but again, like I wanted to bring back up when it comes to AI is
Oh yeah.
the beach, the teaching him how to swim scene. The fact that they situations like that, either due to budget cuts or time restraints or whatever. Um, the fact that they just got in there, made it that much more intimate, made it that much better, because on paper, it's one way, but then once you get there on location, shit just
Mm-hmm.
happens that you have no control over.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that it was a blessing or a gift in disguise, because it made the scene that much better. So, like, again, like, if a movie is written by AI, or if a movie becomes exactly beat for beat what it is in the script, it's probably not going to be that great, because things just happen inevitably when you're making a movie that improve it, that nobody could have expected, nobody could have um, written that. It's
Mm-hmm.
all the cool things that happen that are unscripted make a movie. So
Yeah. Well, and you don't even need it doesn't even need to be like my favorite thing about working on productions where you're part of this giant team of people is that even like with actors, Jenkins mentioned that, when they were auditioning the kids and they had decided on um Alex Hibbert is the kid that plays Little.
yeah.
When they decided on him, the kid was frustrated because he didn't have very much dialogue.
Mm,
It was really his like first film or whatever, and um, Jenkins basically had this conversation with him about like you don't need dialogue to say something.
yeah.
You can say something in the way that you act. And so, like, what's interesting to me is that none of the three actors that played Chiron, none of the three actors that played him met each other during
Mm,
filming or prior to filming, and
yeah.
none of them got the scripts for the other characters, like the
Oh,
other
no way.
acts, but they all found a similar character. And the kid, Alex Hibbert, that plays Little, the whole looking down and not looking people in the eye was a result of that conversation with Barry Jenkins, with him saying, you can say a lot without saying anything. And so like he mentioned it a couple times in the commentary, but I saw it all throughout that first story, the parts where
Yeah.
he's sitting at the table and there's like a placemat in front of him and he's like picking at the placemat. He's not looking at them, he's not talking, he's just picking at it. Like all that stuff is very much a character thing, but that came from the actor. So
Yeah.
to your point, AI is not going to do that because that wasn't something that he directed, that Barry Jenkins said, like, hey, make sure you're not looking at him and make sure that you're fidgeting and playing with stuff. That was just what the actor took away from him saying, you don't have, acting is more than just what you say. It's in how you
Mhm.
act when you're not saying anything. And then we
Yeah.
get that from that. And I'm sure, that extends to the other actors too. But what
Mhm.
actors bring to a role is just as much a part of who those characters end up being as what is written on the script. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, can somebody direct an AI to do that? Maybe, but the whole magic of that is what happens when a director and an actor and a cinematographer and a composer and everybody gets together, because the magic happens in the interplay between those creatives,
Yeah.
not in one person with a vision being like, my vision is perfect and everything that needs to be there is in this vision. No, it's
Mhm.
not. And
No.
if you think it is, you're wrong and your movie's gonna suck.
Right.
But my
Yeah.
favorite moments in the things that I have created is with other people, those other people bringing something that I never would have expected or never would have thought to put into whatever the project is that, we're creating.
Yeah. Exactly. It's all
Even in
about
something as
collaboration, man.
yeah, even in something as silly as like an interview that I'm doing for a client, sometimes my favorite moments come from the unscripted things that people that I'm interviewing just say.
Mhm.
I didn't tell them to say that. The director didn't tell them to say that. They just said that because they're a human being that is live and has their own thoughts and brought those into the thing. And it ends up being one of the best moments of the whole thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, man.
So
Well, that's all I
Very
got.
cool. Yeah, I don't have anything else in my notes. I normally at this point would go through like the IMDb trivia just to see if there's anything that they mentioned that would have been, important to note. But I feel like this movie kind of speaks for itself. It's thematically very consistent and
Mhm.
again, it's very clear on what it's trying to say. I don't think you really need the commentary to hear that stuff, but
Yeah.
it's very. He did. You were right. Mahershala Ali won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
So,
Which is impressive since he was in the first act. That was it.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, next
Filmed
week we're
25
kind
days.
of debating between, well, yeah, possibly Hidden
Hidden
Figures, right?
Figures.
Hidden
Yep.
Figures. I brought up the Green Book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Green Book. That's a possibility. So
And what was the other one? There
uh
was one that neither of us had seen.
there was.
Yeah, shoot.
But yeah. hiddenmovieclub.substack.com so you can keep up with what we are watching because it comes out every Friday. So that way you know what we're going to be watching that next Tuesday. So even though we're kind of debating what we're going to watch, we will know for sure by Friday. So join this free Substack to join the newsletter and see what's up. And then, yeah, if you join our $5 pledge tier, $5 per month, that is, then you can also have access to exclusive content beyond the newsletter. So
Yep.
please
Next
decide.
unboxing coming up soon. I hope to work on that this
Yeah.
week. So we'll
Uh,
have another
Derek
unboxing
just
for.
Derek just unboxed the Wes Anderson collection from Criterion, which was incredible. So if you're interested in those kind of things, and all those who have joined our $5 pledge tier are eligible to win our 4K giveaways. So please do that if you're
Yeah.
cool.
You will win a copy of Moonlight or any of the other movies that we've discussed on Hidden Movie Club.
Yeah.
So please join us next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And, if you enjoy what we're doing, make sure you comment on Elon's newsletters, posts, comment on any of the exclusive stuff. If there's movies you think we should watch that are related to Moonlight, any of the actors, cinematographers, any of that stuff, let us know. We love suggestions. We love watching the movies that you guys are recommending. I've enjoyed all of them so far. So I think if we keep that going, that would be great.
Hell yeah, dude. Thanks again for joining us. You rock, people. And yeah, we'll see you
Thanks,
next
everybody.
week.
We'll see you next week for Double Take at noon. Bye.
Bye. Oops. Hold on. There we go. That's the right button.